And welcome back. We have been joined in studio this morning by Dr. Leroy Almendares. He's the Executive Director over at BELTRAIDE, and he's here to discuss with us, among other things, the Belize Investment Summit.
Good
morning, Doc.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, Isani. Good morning. Pleasure meeting you.
How's it going? I know you're a busy man. You're doing all things BELTRAIDE and promoting Belize on that front. What's been going on?
Well, quite a lot. And as you said, promoting Belize. As you know, we're doing our best to continue the recovery from the pandemic. We're not, we're less than 2 years out. And, in terms of the economic recovery and the different strategies and the, really responding honestly to what investors or people are saying, or those who want to do business with Belize.
Yeah.
These are some of the challenges. And so what is Belize doing in order to meet those challenges, to mitigate those things that make us more competitive? And so, we have been looking at legislation. There are new policies that were approved by the cabinet. But in terms of the fiscal incentive, which is a program, and some, really the reference to it sometimes is economic incentive. Because basically what it does, it stimulates business by providing incentives for them to do business, meaning reducing the cost in some way, because you get reduction in terms of duty exemption, excise duties, and things like that. But one of the signature event is our Belize Investment Summit. We tried it, let me not say we tried it, we did it in 2021. And that was still in the height of the pandemic. And now we are on the 2 years later, which is the second version of it, BIS 2, 2023. So that's a big thing for us. We're now in the planning stages. It's going to happen August 30th to September the 1st. And again, it's really to attract foreign direct investment, but also local investment. And I need to emphasize that because too often there's this saying that, oh, we don't focus on local investment. That's not true. Whatever benefits are afforded to foreign investors, it's the same thing that's afforded to local investors. And so
is it that perhaps from a broader, a global perspective, it would seem as if though more emphasis is being placed on foreign direct investment as opposed to local? Not saying that, there isn't that opportunity. Yeah. I'm simply saying perhaps one overshadows the other.
Well, actually, they don't. I just believe that I think there's this misconception. Oh, we focus only on the foreign direct investment. But that's not really the case, because, like I said, the landscape that's created benefits all. But the importance of the foreign direct investment is many times you might have local investors who I need an additional push. I have the land, I have the know-how, I have the location, and I have the idea. But what I need is funding. And so therefore you have a joining of interest, if you will. Sorry, joining of interest. And so I have the money and I can invest with you through a joint venture. We don't really encourage much mergers and mergers, for example, because what you don't want to do is to create only disadvantages within the environment either.
Yeah. So
there's not so much a focus, because if you look at the fiscal incentive, believe me, the stimulation, the incentives that are in there, and especially now with the inclusion of micro, small, and medium enterprises, over 90% of our businesses in Belize are in fact within that sector, and quite a large percentage, over 60%, are micros. So that's the engine of growth, and that's the focus of the government. And so stimulating that and creating those incentives. But as I said, for the BIS, we do want to attract investors from, really from our partner countries. The United States is one of our largest partners. We will have investors coming in, or people coming in from the Caribbean, from Asia, but primarily I'm talking here about Taiwan. Mexico is really, there is always that continued interest with Mexico wanting to do business with Belize. We have a partial scope agreement with Guatemala. So we're doing our best. Like I said, we have created the enabling environment, and the registration is now open. So it's just for those who want to come in. Our interests are still tourism. We're focusing a lot on And let me just say this, we have segregated our economy into green, blue, and orange. And so even, and many times we want to, some people ask, well, what's green, blue, and orange? We have green entrepreneurship, you know, those who are engaging in renewable energy and everything green, as we do our best to comply with the whole carbon neutrality and climate change and all of that. And of course, the blue economy, we talk of blue entrepreneurship, anything below the water.
Yeah.
So we think about things like aquaculture and things like that. And of course, the orange economy, the creative economy.
Yeah, for artisanship.
Exactly, and too often it's hard to get a definition of what that is. Let me just reference our guest speaker who was confirmed, Ivan Duque Marquez. He was the former president of Colombia, and basically he cited Winston Churchill, you know, a former prime minister of Britain, and he said, "The next empire will be an empire of the mind." And when you think about the mind, so anything creative, but they needed to brand it. And in order to brand it, they said, okay, what's the color of fire? And remember, it's a creative fire within you that allows you to generate. I mean, we are so culturally diverse, so think about all the blessings we have. And if we exercise our intellectual capital, there's so much that we can create. We can be original, we can be innovative. And so basically they said, well, the creative needs a branding. And so they branded it, you know, with the color of fire, which is really orange. Because too often you hear, use orange economy, and people, what's that?
Yeah.
But that's a part of the whole historical perspective where it's concerned. So if you're not blue or green,
you're
orange.
I wanna look back at the Belize Investment Summit 2021 and compare it to what we can expect for BIS 2 2023. What were the challenges, the successes, and how are you planning to make this year's BIS better than the last?
Well, sorry, 2021 to me the biggest challenge was COVID. And so therefore we had to be very, very mindful of the fact that there were still travel restrictions and all of that. But we still had over 350 people present. I mean, businesses. We also had B2B meetings, business to business meetings, because again, that's another trigger. We want to attract, entities like Massey and others we want to bring them into the country. We want to increase our manufacturing capability. So that was our big challenge, but I must tell you that we overcome that. I mean, we did not have any issues with that. So that's one of the things but we had many people tune in virtually. And remember now that if you tune in virtually, when it comes to marketing, advertising, promotion, the best way is word of mouth. So we had to make sure that this first product, because remember, if your first introduction to a market does not sell, does not work, that's it for you.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear about any BIS2. So we had individuals who, while they were online, I mean, and the hearing about, the other big thing for us is business process outsourcing. I mentioned renewable energy, the diversity within the blue economy, aquaculture, mariculture, all of these different things. And of course, we can't forget agriculture, because when the pandemic hit us and tourism declined, it was agriculture that really...
We relied on.
So that was the trigger for, that was the inducement to really at least create some kind of great economic activity within the country. So if we were to think about lessons learned, I mean, we have to understand, for example, now not only capping, because like I said, it exceeded what we had. We had catered for 300. We ended up with over 350. We had great participation from public and private sector. There was great interest created. The mechanisms we use for marketing, because we have to do international marketing. Too often, again, sorry, you might hear that if sorry, folks, if I invest $1 in marketing, some people consider it a waste. That's not true. If it generates interest way beyond that, then it's worth it. So those were the things, and now where we are now, we expect over 500, right? Over 500 individuals. We will still have virtual participation. We will still have the hybrid approach. And so what we're doing now is to ask ask those who are interested in doing business, in fact, to come out. You know, really, what's your interest? Come prepared, because you can partner with someone who may have the funding and sometimes even know how, that, you know, that will allow for, you know, will really allow for those partnerships to be developed. The networking, as I said, is important. So those are some of the lessons learned, but like I said, we were able to overcome those challenges, you know, created by the pandemic. At this point in time, we can't use the pandemic anymore.
Yeah.
And so therefore, the expectation is that we will have, like I said, it will be bigger, it will be better, and it will be in San Pedro.
Okay.
Right? We're going back to San Pedro because, you know, when we look at one of the challenges we have in this country is, if I'm holding an event that may need 500 or 1,000 people, or there's no place that can really house them. And so even conference tourism, if someone was to build a conference center that can accommodate that number of people, that would be a good thing. And so these are the kind of things that that's not something you can do overnight. What we need to do is to make sure we can find accommodation, those areas that can accommodate that kind of traffic, because it's not only those coming in. You also have people from the public and private sector and all of that, and so, you know, that's where we are.
Doc, from a practical perspective, I know that being able to facilitate this kind of interaction with outside investors is one thing, but how do we measure the successes of this kind of an event with people actually investing in Belize and starting up businesses? I think people want to know and understand, how does this translate into real activities on the ground?
Well, one of the biggest, because you have to look at results, as you would say, what has been triggered is we have a lot more interest in terms of name brand hotels in tourism. And so that's a big thing. Remember, we have all these natural advantages that we have to take advantage of without compromising the environment. Because you will hear about environmental clearance, you will hear about, you know, things like that. So that's one thing we don't do. But you have much more interest there. You have greater interest in aquaculture, non-traditionals as well. I must tell you that there are non-traditional areas such as things like seaweed and coconut, which are things we never used to focus on before. But coconut was always to be the next big thing, you see? And so there's a lot of focus in that areas to develop our export capability, so it means increasing production. And that comes through investment. Because, you know, that's the biggest deterrent, as I have said, that, you know, access to finance.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to go back on was something that you mentioned earlier as it relates to local investors. When we think of the Belize Investment Summit, we think about bigger heads coming in, foreign investors coming in and seeing what they can be a part of as it relates to investing in Belize. How can you encourage local investors, more small businesses, to take part in the Belize Investment Summit?
Well, let's deal with the small ones first. I mean, what we're having also is an expo. You keep hearing about expo. You'd have heard, and I'm sure that, you know, you were part of the, gave us that presence as well. We recently had a road show.
Yeah.
We had a road show, and it took us to 10 different locations within the country. And the purpose of that was, we go to you. If you try to get a small business to take a day off to go to another location, it's a real challenge, because there's a loss of revenue plus a cost. So we went to them, and to encourage them, because one of the things we did was to say, okay, what kind of business you have? Because we didn't know, and the road show means come and show us your business.
Yeah.
Small and medium enterprises make up the largest percentage of those who actually export, especially the medium, not so much the large. And so we're having an expo as well, where businesses come out. We're trying to cater at least to 20 where they can come out. And indeed, you would have heard last week, indeed, the chamber had made in Belize. We are focusing on by Belizean. But remember now, if you want consumption of anything, it has to meet those standards and quality that people expect.
Yeah.
So we have also set up, we have incubation centers, and I'm just saying this because sometimes even local businesses just need that additional push. An incubation center really allows you know, okay, here is my business. Sometimes we don't even know we're a business. In other words, if I make $1 today, I spend $1.10, and I don't know how you do that. Well, I know how you do it. You get 10 cents from somebody else, and then you keep owing. And so we get you to understand you're a business. Here is the business model. Here is to understand how you generate revenue. And if you generate revenue, remember, you still have to pay yourself. You still have to replenish. If you have to replace, those are things you have to do as well.
Yeah.
And so we're also doing that to get our businesses, because what you want, there's an ecosystem that exists, and we want people to migrate. Don't remain a micro. The fiscal incentive says, yes, there are incentives for micro, small, and medium, but you can transition through and grow, and that's one of the things we want to see. Because if you have critical mass and we want to export, you can actually work together, and because exporting is quota driven, we can actually meet quota to get those things out. So there's so many things, like I said, the policies are in, the strategies are there, and so we expect that more businesses. So when we get this opportunity to do so, small business and micro, small, and medium have to understand you are not taken out from the whole equation. We're focusing on you as well.
Yeah.
All right.
And the idea is to help them to transition and grow their business.
Yes, because we want to see them grow. We want, and if you want to, for example, let us say you're near export.
Yeah.
BELTRAIDE helps you with that. We have an export Belize unit. And we can do all the gap analysis to see where you are, help you to establish standard operating procedures. And when you're ready to invest, we have an Belize Invest unit. We have a training and employment center. We have a small business development center, which is pretty close to where we are right now. And so that's one of the things that we want to do. The other challenge I think we have is informality. A lot of businesses, you don't know where they are, and so therefore it's hard for them to see, for us to see what contributions they're making to the economy. And how do we assist you if we don't know where you are? And let me just make quick reference again to that Fiscal Incentive Act 2023. If you have been operating for over 20 years, it doesn't matter how long, if you decide now to register and become formal, you will not be taxed. Because that's one of the things they say, if I formalize, I'll be taxed. No. You have up to July of this year, and if you register, you still get a 1-year business tax exemption. So we have worked this out. We have met even before that bill went through the House, and it's now an act. And those are the things, it's to stimulate. It's not to drive you away. And so, so the more we have, and because it focuses on investment even in the small and medium and micro, again, like I said, for example, when BIS 3 should happen, that there are far more businesses ready, they're shovel ready, and all I need is, here's my proposal. I meet with a fellow, some business from some other region, and here is where we can invest in this country. And as I said, Mexico as well continues to do so. And you will find far more economic activity into the country, with the whole intention, the objective, because the government has taken an export-led growth, that we will be exporting at least close to what we import. Because believe me, you report on the figures, we import far more than we export.
And
that's
a
something
huge
we have
disparity
to continue to bridge, because it is pretty huge. And many times it's the input to the final product on many occasions that we're importing. So if we develop our manufacturing capability, produce more of those inputs, we must, of course, continue to make the adjustment where digital technology is concerned. We cannot escape that fact, that we must have the inclusion of technology and up-to-date technology.
I'd like you to stick up in for a second here and go back to what you were saying. I think part of the challenge for us as producers is that we're not there perhaps where it concerns value added as opposed to simply commodities where we're just producing raw materials or raw ingredients in a manner of speaking. And I think part of that is what drives our imports way over what we're actually exporting.
The other thing is, and yes, it is true, sometimes we don't have the wherewithal to get it to the final product. So sometimes, like for example, when we were producing oil, for example, the crude, we did not have the refinery to take it to its final stage, which would have probably reduced the consumption of fuel in the country. And so when you have to export that, and our crude was similar to the West Texas crude. In other words, it was high grade.
Yeah.
But we did not have the refinery. So it simply meant that we had to go through that process, and then you have importation of fuel, and then we have no control over that.
Yeah.
Right? Just like electricity, if we import it from Mexico, if it's indexed to oil, then the volatility that exists in terms of pricing, we have no control over that. So that's what we need to do. And sometimes we're doing these things from a regional perspective. In other words, we harmonize. But again, this is where the summit again allows you that opportunity. For us, like I said, what we have are pipeline projects, renewable energy. We have projects with tourism. We have projects in manufacturing. We have projects now related to the blue economy, in agriculture. Agri-technology is another very big thing, because anything that speeds up or increase greater efficiencies in terms of production of a unit, that makes it much easier. So all of this now is opportunity. Our Belizeans will be there. You will have the foreign direct investor who comes in. They will meet with each other, and what we want to see, if it would possible within the 3 days, that there's some signing off on, okay, we are ready to go. And we continue to provide that kind of support, meaning not only BELTRAIDE, because this is under the Office of the Prime Minister. So it's finance, economic development and investment, but we're focusing a lot on the investment perspective. And there's a ministry, you have the Economic Development Council and BELTRAIDE, and all of us are working on this together too, because that's what we want. After September the 1st of this year, we hope that there will be far more interest, because a lot more people who used to ask, there are countries where they still would ask, where is Belize? Or even what is Belize? That has changed. Because, for example, if you travel through the United States and many countries, you'd be surprised. Oh, you're from Belize? I've ever been there, a family member has been there, or I would like to go there.
Because there's an aggressive campaign to put Belize on the map through tourism and other products.
Exactly, and believe me, we're known worldwide. We're known worldwide. So when you hear about Belize and investment, many people think about the blue hole. Yes, that's one of these value added.
Yeah.
Our barrier reef. The fact that tourism is experiential, it's not only beach. I mean, so there's so many things that we will package here and have the opportunity to discuss over those 3 days.
All right. So when is BIS2, and how can businesses be a part of it?
Well, it's August 30th to September the 1st, and you can register. We have a website, the investmentsummit.bz. You can become a sponsor, right? Because in the first iteration of it, we didn't have a lot of time to plan. But now, because we expect it to be bigger, and the fact that now this takes your business international.
Yeah.
So we have the usual bronze, gold, platinum sponsorship you can sponsor, and it tells you everything that you can benefit from, if you were to sponsor. Right? I don't know if you have shown it, but these are packages that exist. We have quite a lot of interest already for those who are looking at the packages and wanting to become a sponsor, because like I said, it creates even a greater presence for you as a sponsor for the BIS 2023.
Is there a fee involved being a part of BIS2?
The fee is minimal. The fee is minimal if you were to register, but like I said, the sponsorship is a different thing.
Okay.
If I could just quickly do this. So the bronze is 5,000 to 1499, and you get mentioned public. There's quite a lot of things. Your logo, you get access to business opportunity. The silver is 15 to 25. The gold is 25 to 75, and the platinum is 75 to 100,000. And each one of those tells you exactly what you get. Because like I said, there'll be a greater presence, and I can tell you there's a lot of interest. Right? There's a lot of interest, and so we will still be doing some international marketing, but at this point in time, there is a lot of interest for BIS.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to go back to another area that's of interest, and that is the business process outsourcing sector. Belize has become boomtown for BPOs.
Yes.
Everywhere you look, people are working at call centers and so on and so forth. Let's talk a bit about that and how integral perhaps BELTRAIDE has been or continues to be in the growth of this sector.
Well, let me just say this. You remember there was a time when there was one call center, and we used to say call center. No,
Where the call, I believe, may have been
but
the,
no, you don't say call center
forefather.
because you see that was, and let me just reference it this way. That was the generic definition of a BPO. And what is happening now, it's more than just receiving calls and things like that.
Yeah.
The outsourcing that we're getting. You have Think Tech, where, believe me, they're outsourcing programming to Belize. You have legal outsourcing, knowledge outsourcing, administrative assistant outsourcing. And so it has created a diversity within the market in Belize. It allows for diverse training. And not only that, of course, it allows, and I'm telling you this, there's an opportunity for upward mobility for those who work at BPOs now, right? And so at this point in time, outside of the government, BPOs employ over 8,000 individuals with 28 operating. And the intention is to grow it to more than 12,000. So at this point, as you said, we are ripe. Even districts that were at one point not considered, because it became very centralized, Belmopan, Belize, but it's expanding now into the other districts, right? We're looking to the south and things like that. And so what we have been doing as BELTRAIDE is to train you.
Yeah.
We had a graduation in Orange Walk last week, where there were those who were trained, and when you're trained, it's not only to work at a BPO, because soft skills create the human being. And so the holistic individual, that's what we're looking at. But yes, that's our contribution. And again, it's a big focus, like I said, and so even with those incentives, there are opportunities now, and we have a continuous interest. So that's a big part of what we want to talk about as well. But the thing that an individual now, you can export your service, meaning it's outsourced to you, that I can program now. So to tell you now how far it has diversified. So because in the past people say, oh, you work at a call center? It's almost like
You are looked down upon.
You're looked down upon. But no, you can become a programmer. There's this legal outsourcing and so many things that require some high level skills. And believe me, those individuals, they're individuals in Belize who are generating some serious income.
Yep, they're paid handsomely. There are some
That's
call
the word,
centers
handsomely.
that are
Right.
paying big bucks. And you mentioned something very important, that a lot of these BPOs are offering upward mobility. It's not where you start. There's a lot of people that are able to go up as managers, and as we mentioned, they're paid a lot of money.
I know some of them. I know some of them who started off as agents, and now the vice presidents of some of the different some of the these different BPOs. I may not say call center anymore, but the BPOs. I mean, so it simply tells you. Remember, any growth that you undertake has a lot to do with you. Apply yourself, because you just never know who's looking, who's watching. And you can see it here. I mean, believe me, I remember, I think you used to come on now and again, right? I know you're full time.
Yeah.
No, I'm just taking you, and I remember Itzani. I've watched his transition as well. So that's what it's about. Apply yourself, and you can grow. As a matter of fact, I've taught some of these individuals at UB.
Yeah.
That simply tells you they have every interest in developing that capital we've been talking about, so that when the opportunity strikes, they are considered first, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So it's just about being prepared.
A lot of it is
Yeah.
owed to creating the enabling environment too. Because
Exactly.
for you to nurture talent and skill, you have to be able to create that space.
And it's happening, you know, it is really happening. Our people are going for high level for also, like I said, we're going back to the green economy. That simply means you need engineers and others trained in
Yeah.
that area to understand climate change. And, you know, this whole thing about greenhouse gases that we didn't have to talk about before. And when you hear about people hear blue economy, there was a confusion. Blue economy is everything that exists under the water, but there's a natural ecosystem that exists under there. And so when you hear about ghost fishing and those kind of things, where
Yeah.
you see fish being caught either with nets around their head because somebody left a piece of a net there, this is the kind of education we need. We need people to become, and that's why that segregation. The government has also established or putting in an industrial policy, which talks about the green, blue, and orange economy. And so you fit somewhere. Find what interests you, and wherever it interests you, keep pushing. But like I said, I mean, you know, the environment has been created. We are ripe for all of this. It's just a matter now for all of us to employ ourselves, because each one of us makes some contribution to this macroeconomic goal that we have.
Yeah. All right. Well, just before we wrap things up again, yeah, you can give us the dates for BIS, how you can be a part of it, or if you'd like to sponsor the packages that are available.
Yes, it's August 30th to September the 1st, and it will be in San Pedro. And I encourage businesses, and I'm glad that we focus on that. If you're a local business and you have an idea, something you want to invest in, this is an opportunity, because you will be able to have business-to-business meetings, and there's every possibility that those who come in will also have presence from Saudi Arabia. And believe me, when they talk about investment, it's as well large investment.
Major
Right? So
investments.
many times it's 10 million and above. But it creates such an opportunity for networking and for the development of that. And believe me, we'll be there to capturing the data and to see what comes out of it. And our role is really to provide that support to see things materialize.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Thank
Doctor.
you.
And we look forward to hearing more about BIS2 2023 and what takes place. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we will be joined by representatives of the Elections and Boundaries to talk to us about transfer period. Don't go away.